Hey y'all, my name's Priscilla and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to give you a book tag. I'm going to be doing the No Disclaimers book tag that was created by Michael over at Catalyst Reads. I'll link his original creator video below. Michael's a really great booktuber and he does a lot of discussion videos, and he also creates a lot of unique tag videos. So go ahead and check him out, but I'm just gonna go ahead and get started with some of these questions. The first question is, which trope or tropes in books annoy you the most? So for me, I think the trope that I get annoyed with the most, but I don't really read about much anymore in my recent reads, is the brooding, sarcastic, and rude teenage boy that is supposed to be the love interest and that we're supposed to fall in love with because he has a troubled past and there's a lot more to him than appears to the eye, and that if the female protagonist breaks down his barriers or saves him or gives him a second, third, fourth chance, then we can grow to love him. Something that I'm not here for anymore. I bought into this whole idea of troubled teens and wanting to save people, and I just think this breeds very toxic relationships, and that girls don't get this same kind of treatment. If girls are rude or bitchy, they're tagged as rude or bitchy. They're not given second, third, fourth, fifth chances. So I'm not here for those kinds of love romantic interests, and I think it's something that you see a lot in YA, but I'm not here for it anymore. The next question, which writer or writers do you feel are overrated or overhyped? I'm kind of scared to say this, but I think that Sarah J. Maas is extremely overhyped and overrated. And I did read the first in her Throne of Glass series. I think the first book is called Throne of Glass. And I mean, it was a good read. I enjoyed it. I finished it. I didn't DNF it. It was a book that I picked up when I was kind of falling back into love of reading, and it was everywhere. I mean, you go to any bookstore and there's like a mass amount of Sarah J. Maas, and I was interested, and so I picked it up. And if you don't know, this is about a teenage assassin, badass assassin, great at her job, super lethal, that is enslaved and has to compete in a competition to free herself. And I just wasn't buying it. Like, she has such a great backstory, and we're told all these things about her life and who she is and how great she is. But then you get to this present day competition, and I just didn't fall for it. I wasn't believing that she was this badass assassin. And I didn't mind her being whiny or being teenage-like. That wasn't what bothered me. Which bothered me was that the writing was so poor that I wasn't believing the story. I wasn't believing that this girl was this badass assassin. Yeah, I don't want to be too critical of the story because I haven't read the entire series, and from what I've heard, the series does get better as the books go on. After reading the first book, I wasn't excited to continue on with the series, and I probably won't because I've heard a lot of critiques about all of her stories being very white and very non-diverse, and I'm not here for stories that are non-diverse and that don't represent the world that I live in. That's that. The next question is, what are your least favorite books you've read since joining BookTube? I mentioned this already on my channel before, but the least favorite book that I've read is a graphic novel. That is Why the Last Man by Brian K. Vaughan. And this is a very long series, a very long, very beloved series by Brian K. Vaughan. And it's pretty much about our main character, Yorick, who is the last male on Earth. He has survived some mysterious plague that has wiped out all of the mammals that have the Y chromosome, except for himself. And he's going through the world and looking for his girlfriend with all these other female characters that are completely unrealistic and over-sexualized, and the tale is so misogynistic that I will not be continuing on with the series, and I gave it 1 star on Goodreads, and I'm pretty generous with my star ratings, but this one I would have given 0 stars if I could have, so don't read it. Save yourself the trouble. And the next question is a terrible ending that ruined an otherwise quality book. I can't remember a book that I hated the ending and that ruined the entire book for me. So I decided to pick a book that has a very controversial ending and that I have very mixed feelings about. now. And that is the half-lost third finale to the Half-Life trilogy by Sally Green. It's a YA fantasy about witches, and in this fantasy world in, I think, the UK, there are two sects of witches. There's the white witches and the black witches, and the white witches are kind of like the good witches that practice good magic, and the black witches are portrayed as the evil magic people. And our main protagonist is, I think, what they call a half code, because his mother is a white witch and his father is a black witch. So he is troubled and very much critiqued from a very young age and followed and hunted. And he, through the course of 3 books, comes into his own and is openly bisexual and has a very lovely romance with another black witch. And I won't ruin the ending because it is the final in a trilogy, but it broke me. I was in tears after reading that ending, and after thinking about it, I'm a little mixed feelings about it, because I just want queer characters to have happy endings, and I don't know why queer characters have to go through so much trauma and have some sort of uplifting message to have their stories heard. And that's all I'm going to say about that without getting more into spoilers. Next is, which fictional characters do you wish were not killed? For some reason, the first character that came to mind was Hedwig from the Harry Potter series. And in book 7, that killing was, I understand why J.K. Rowling did it. I think it's supposed to symbolize the end of Harry's childhood, but I didn't get that from seeing that in film or in the text. I think that Harry's childhood has long been over, and I think that really Sirius's death was the end of and book 5 in general was the end of Harry's childhood. So I don't understand why we had to kill a poor innocent owl. That killing was so anticlimactic and undeserving. So Hedwig. And the next question is, what are some of your bookish pet peeves? And for this, the only thing I could think of was when the end pages are uneven in books. It's kind of a OCD thing for me, but just like holding a hardcover book that has uneven pages is really annoying for me. And I have an example. So hope this comes out on camera, but like, so this is Difficult Women by Roxane Gay. Great book. Please read it. But the end pages, I don't know if you can see, are a little uneven here. So yeah, that's just a small little thing. I mean, I still love the book. I don't know why people do this, but yeah, there it is. And the next question is, what are some books that you feel should be more recognized? For this answer, I know that Octavia Butler is well known and well renowned in the sci-fi world, but I don't really hear her spoken of as highly and as much as I think she should in the booktube community. So for this, I'm going to say Octavia Butler. If you're into sci-fi and you haven't read Kindred, which is one of her most well-known works and less sci-fi heavy, I would highly recommend Kindred by Octavia Butler. And the last question is, what are some of your thoughts on censorship or banning of books? So in short, I don't think that banning or censorship is a good idea. More recently, you may have heard that The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas was banned from a Texas school. And that Texas school is in Katy ISD, which is actually on the outskirts of the Houston area where I'm from. So this was very disheartening for me to hear. I don't think that banning books is a great idea, because usually it's a very small committee that gathers and listens to some challenges from parents or students or teachers, and they make an overriding decision and implement this decision without really any feedback or discussion. My feelings for this mostly are because I think that usually books are banned because of narratives that certain people don't agree with or don't find important enough. But with a book like The Hate U Give, where the central narrative is that Black Lives Matter in a very thoughtful and accessible way, I can understand why some people will feel uncomfortable, but I can't see why you would just dismiss this narrative entirely. Another story that came to mind, also in the Houston area, a couple years ago I heard about this. A student was reading newly published history textbook, and in this textbook there was some very nuanced language selections and phrases regarding the transatlantic slave trade. In this text, I think it was speaking about how immigrants were brought, millions upon millions of immigrants were brought from Africa to the US during the time of the transatlantic slave trade as workers. And I think that this censorship is very dangerous and very impactful, and whitewashing a history that is traumatic and that is ugly and that is hard to face, but that is necessary. And while this complaint was heard from the publisher, I think the mother and son complained to both the school and the publisher. The publisher did immediately amend the censorship and did add in the specific slave phrases in the textbook on the online version. The published book will remain in schools from anywhere I hear from 10 plus years. And that is extremely alarming, because this is a history that needs to be told, and that now is in the responsibility of teachers and students to be told accurately. Like, these are news textbooks for children that you're teaching kids that may not know of this history or are hearing about this for the first time, and is now being disguised and sugar-coated and whitewashed, which I completely disagree with. And the last question is, who do you tag? And I think that if you like talking about not opinions that people maybe don't like, or if you like talking about controversial topics, I tag you. That's all the questions for the no disclaimers book tag. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I recently got a couple of new subscribers, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for following me and commenting. It really means a lot to me, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. Bye.